Hey guys, welcome to our first flipped lesson. Hopefully you have been able to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have not, next time you're in class, let me know and we will get that taken care of for you. Today we're going to start talking about the 5 major world religions that were in the world at 1500. We're going to look at some of the basics of these religions, so who their founders were, what their religious and sacred texts are, any holy days, that sort of thing. Make sure you're taking your notes on your chart. If you have any questions as we go through this, jot them down in the margin of your paper, and we will. I'll give you a chance to have those questions answered when you come back to class. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me remind you also that you do have the ability to rewind, to pause this lecture if you need to. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hinduism. Hinduism is the oldest of the 5 major religions. It was founded in 2500 BC, and it has no known founder. It's the world's 3rd largest religion with approximately 900 million followers worldwide. The red symbol that you see here is Om, or the sound of the universe. Hindus believe that there is a supreme spiritual force in everything, which is called Brahman. Hinduism is interesting in that it doesn't have just one sacred text or set of teachings, but the Vedas are the most ancient religious text in Hinduism. The Upanishads are also an important text to Hindus, along with a poem called Bhagavad Gita, which is the tale of the Ramayana. Hinduism is also unique and a little confusing in that it's not considered to be monotheistic, which you should remember means one God, or polytheistic, which means many gods. Hindu believe instead that there are many forms of one God. So some of these gods are Brahma. Brahma is the God who was responsible for the creation of the world and all creatures in the world. Brahma is the least worshipped god in Hinduism. In all of India, there are only 2 temples that are devoted to Brahma. Vishnu, which is the god there in the center. Vishnu is the preserver and the protector of the universe. It's his job to keep balance and order between good and evil here on earth. Some Hindus consider Vishnu to be the greatest of the Hindu gods, and they only worship him. Shiva is the 3rd god, and he is called the destroyer. Hindus believe that when Shiva destroys, it is always meant for the betterment of society, and he is seen as the source of both good and evil in this world. So let's take a look at what some of their main beliefs are. Karma, which you may have heard of before, it's kind of the thought that what comes around goes around, that sort of thing. Karma is the knowledge that all thoughts and actions result in future consequence. So the way that you treat others ultimately is going to affect how you are treated. The cartoon on the right of the man pushing over the block, I think it illustrates this concept beautifully. So you can see he's pushing over the block. It's something that he is doing, but it is definitely going to affect him. It's going to come back around and affect him later on down the road. Another one of the main beliefs is reincarnation. I love this illustration here. You can see that it shows the cycle of birth and death and rebirth. Okay, so reincarnation, it's governed by karma. So your soul, a person's soul, is born, it lives, it dies, and then it's reborn many times over. In the illustration, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner that there is a skull, and I'm just going to point it out here to you. So here's the skull, and you can see this kind of blue line here. It is going all the way through the unborn child, through the baby, the toddler, the kid, the teenager, to the grown man. You can see the whole cycle of life here. He's dying. Here's the skull. He's reborn into a new baby, and so on. Okay, and it just goes, it continues on and on and on. The cycle is continued numerous times over, and the next incarnation is always determined by how the previous life was lived. So it is directly affected by karma. Some of the rituals that they have, bathing in the Ganges River is a big one for Hindus. The Ganges River is the holiest of rivers for Hindus. They believe that bathing in the Ganges River will completely wash away all of their sins. And after bathing in the Ganges, there is a special ceremony and spiritual purification that occurs, which ensures the blessings of God. The city of Varanasi is located on the Ganges River and is considered to be the most holy city to Hindus. Hindus think that dying in this city ensures their entry into heaven. They have several holy days in the Hindu faith. Some of these holy days include Diwali, Hanuman, Jayanti, Krishna Janmashtami, and that's just to name a couple of them, just to name a few. Moving on to Buddhism. So Buddhism was founded in the 5th century by Siddhartha Gautama, who was on a quest for enlightenment. Unlike other faiths or religions, Buddhism does not believe in a personal God, and it can be practiced in a temple or at home. Some other ways that Buddhism is different from other faiths that you may or may not be familiar with is that there are no demands of allegiance, or there aren't any required rites or ceremonies that you have to go through to become a Buddhist as well. Some of the important holidays or holy days, to Buddhists include Dharma Day, Sangha Day, and Parinirvana. So Buddhists believe that change is always possible and are constantly seeking enlightenment. Siddhartha Gautama reached enlightenment and became Buddha. So it was at that point that he became Buddha. When he reached enlightenment, he became the Buddha. It's believed that Varanasi was designated as a holy city for Buddhists to pilgrimage to by Buddha himself. It wasn't that far from, and it's because it was not that far from Varanasi where Buddha began his preaching. It was only about 4 miles from where he began preaching. The Dalai Lama is the head monk, while there are many other monks and nuns that also help lead Buddhism today. Buddhism spread from India to China and other parts of Asia in large part due to the writings of Ashoka, who was a Buddhist missionary, as well as other missionaries as well. Some of their main beliefs, the Four Noble Truths is a big one for them. So Buddhists believe that people suffer because of their desire for things. It's because you want things that there is suffering in the world. So this leads us to their Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, they state that there is suffering in the world, suffering has an origin, suffering can stop, and that there's also a path out of suffering. So we all suffer, there's a reason why we suffer, we can make it stop, and then there's a way to make it stop. So the solution, or the way to make the suffering stop, it's called the Eightfold Path. Eightfold Path, by following the Eightfold Path, Buddhists believe that they can become enlightened and therefore no longer suffer. The 8 stages are not intended to be completed at one time, but rather they are meant to be all completed in conjunction. So it's not like you start off with, the right insight, and then once you've got that mastered, you go on to having the right thought or right intention, and then after that, you go on to right speech. So it is meant so that all of these aspects of the Eightfold Path, that you do all of these things in conjunction together. Each stage supports and reinforces the other 7 stages, and by following all of these stages, one can achieve enlightenment. The Buddha once described the Eightfold Path as a boat that helps one to cross a river. Once the river has been crossed, the boat is no longer needed and can be left behind. Okay, I think I'm going to pause our video here and start another. We're going to wrap up with our next 3 videos, or next 3 religions in the next video. I don't want these to be too long for you. So hold on to your notes. Go on to Unit 1, Day 1, Video 2, and then you should be able to finish out your chart.